All right, here we go. We're actually doing this. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cliff Olson. I am a doctor of audiology and I'm an audiologist at Applied Hearing Solutions. And I'm also a YouTuber. I'm known as Doctor Cliff AuD on my YouTube channel. And so this is going to be a little bit different. This is basically vlog number 1. And you can see that I'm here in this really open space. And I'm going to get to that and why I'm here. But let me just kind of rewind and give you an understanding of kind of where I'm from and what I'm actually doing here. So when I was younger, I grew up in a small town called Morris, Illinois, and I actually grew up on a farm outside of that town. The town was about 12,000 people, but I grew up on that farm. And going through school, when I got done with high school, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't really know what my calling was. And so I ended up going to a community college for about a year. And I decided, you know what, school is not really for me. And at that point, I decided to go into the Marine Corps, which is kind of really where this whole story begins. In my first week of boot camp, I had to go through a hearing test, and I actually failed that hearing test several different times in one ear, in my right ear in fact, and I actually had to go to Balboa Medical Hospital to get an MRI to determine, well, why do I have this difference in hearing between my right and left ear? Long story short, it was just some kind of a fluke hearing loss. It wasn't, related to a tumor growth or anything like that. But that was kind of my first introduction into audiology. And I never really thought about it much at that point. I went through my 4 years in the Marine Corps, served overseas in Iraq, got a chance to be a scout sniper, and ultimately, when I got out of the military, I still really didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I ended up going back to school and doing massage therapy as well, kind of along the same timeline of that. But once I kind of got into junior year or so, I really made this decision of like, do I want to be a personal trainer? Do I want to remain a massage therapist? Because I was going through school to be an exercise science major. And neither one of those things really were something that I was extremely passionate about. And so I kind of started looking around like, what could I actually do profession-wise, something that I would be passionate about, something that I, would be happy to do for the rest of my career. And I ended up finding this profession called audiology, and it just kind of brought up all these old emotions that I had back in my first week of boot camp, to where I was like, you know what, I think that that's something that I'd like to do. It's medical focused, which I really enjoy that side of things. It's tech focused, and I'm really into tech. And then I also get to have this, patient interaction, which is something that I really enjoy, because if I had to sit behind a computer all day just by myself, it's not something that I would ultimately end up enjoying. I really like to be social and interacting with other individuals. So I ended up making this decision to apply to universities to get into a graduate school program for audiology to get my doctorate. And fortunately, University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana accepted me. And that kind of started that next chapter in my life. Ultimately, when I got through that program, I ended up moving to Phoenix, Arizona to do my externship. And once I was done with my externship, I ended up graduating and ultimately starting my own audiology clinic, Applied Hearing Solutions, which is actually in Anthem, Arizona. At least currently, it's in Anthem, Arizona. And kind of around the same time that I started that clinic, I ended up starting a YouTube channel. And that's actually where you're watching this video at, most likely. And I started the channel because I really wanted to empower individuals with information. If you have hearing loss or you know someone who has hearing loss, so you can know the right questions to ask when you're going in to have your hearing tested and to ultimately receive treatment for that hearing loss. My industry isn't necessarily one of the best industries from the perspective of following best practices. So there are certain fundamental things that hearing care professionals should be doing in order to receive maximum results for their patients. And that's just not something that's done a whole lot. And we do have some industry data that suggests that only 20 to 30% of hearing care professionals actually follow best practices. So that right there was the impetus to start the YouTube channel so I could educate and inform individuals, and so they could find a hearing care professional who followed these practices. And that kind of took on a life of its own, to the point where now there's a ton of individuals out there, asking about where can they go in their area to find a hearing care professional, which kind of led to the next thing that I started, which was the Doctor Cliff AuD approved provider network. And so I have a completely separate, website for that from my clinic and from the YouTube channel. That's at DrCliffAuD.com. But the whole purpose of that website is for me to essentially vet hearing care professionals to ensure that, at least to the best of my ability, that they're following best practices. And then those providers essentially pay a membership fee to be listed on the website. And then I use that money in order to make sure that I'm continuously vetting those providers and to promote to consumers, potentially like yourself, the importance of best practices and how to find a hearing care professional that follows those best practices. So with that, those providers get put onto that website. And so depending on where you live, you might have access to one or more of those providers. So you don't have to come all the way out to see me in Phoenix, Arizona, which is actually where we're at right now. So kind of the big news for this video is that I ended up just purchasing this empty gray shell space here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's along two major freeway intersections. So it's the 101 highway and then the 51 freeway. So really easy access points essentially here in Phoenix. And the reason I'm moving out of Anthem, and it's a little bit of a mixed emotion here, is that Anthem is kind of tucked away in its own little community on the extreme north side of Phoenix. And the problem is that I don't really do marketing to any degree. A lot of individuals, a lot of my patients just find me by going on and searching for hearing related information. They end up stumbling across my YouTube channel, they become informed, and then they feel compelled to come and actually receive treatment from me. And I get a lot of patients who are from outside of the Anthem area, and the next logical progression for me was to move into an area that's a little bit more easily accessible to my patients. And that is why I decided to, instead of staying up in Anthem and staying in the location I was in, I wanted to kind of get my home forever so I can actually have my clinic here and retire from here in Phoenix, Arizona. I have no desire to expand and have multiple clinics in a bunch of different locations. I just like seeing my patients and having, the full control and making sure I have the highest quality of care possible. So we just closed on this space about a week ago, just got our keys about a week ago. We've been working with an architect, with a general contractor, just met with actually a designer today to get this space built out, and hopefully in 3 to 4 months I'll actually be functioning here. But I want to actually take you guys through this journey with me of building out this space, and not just that, but giving you a more behind the scenes look into who I am, why I do what I do. So you can, it's kind of a different model that I have for my YouTube channel. So my current YouTube channel is very structured. I want to make sure that I'm giving accurate information, very research-based. It's highly edited by me. I do all of it myself. But this is going to be a little bit more free-flowing and me just kind of sharing my thoughts with you. And you'll probably hear a lot more ums out of my mouth in this process because I'm just not going to edit this very much. And I know this video, I don't know if it sounds like I'm rambling on this. That's probably going to be something where I'm just kind of giving you my thoughts, and it's going to jump from one thing to another because I just want to keep you up to speed with what's kind of going on a little bit behind the scenes. That being said, I think that this potentially is a way for you to have a window into not just the industry, but me individually. And you're going to get to see kind of an exciting process with me building this out and then sharing, different patient journeys about hearing loss and hearing treatment. And I'm really looking forward to kind of sharing this type of information with you guys. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check out my Doctor Cliff AuD website. Make sure you check out appliedhearingaz.com, and so you don't miss out on anything, because I don't know essentially exactly where all these videos are going to be posted. I presume they'll be on my YouTube channel as well, so make sure you subscribe there, of course. And we'll see how it goes. And feel free to share your comments if there's other things that you want more insight on or more behind the scenes access to. Feel free to ask that. And then I'll probably eventually end up turning this into more of, a vlog, aspect of even inside of the clinic. So where I can maybe bring in other outside, patients to kind of talk about their journeys, outside, industry individuals to have them come in and share their knowledge with you, and then other hearing care providers, both here in the same area that I'm at locally, and providers from, different states, have them come in and kind of share their visions on, the future of hearing treatment and whatnot. So hopefully this will be something that you guys find is valuable, and it's just going to be completely different than things that I've done before. So make sure that you tune in. If you have any questions for me at this point, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and you'll see a lot more of me here really soon.